Mark Jeffries, and Matt Pangrak. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Thursday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Yes, we have a special guest, a throwback from the past, from the beginning when this thing all started. It was myself and my good friend Gary Giudice. Gary, thanks for filling in for Matt.
Oh, glad to be here. He's out fishing. I wish I were. I wish he was here and I was fishing. But I tell you, Mark, it's like old home week. I mean,
it is.
I mean, I don't know how many years we did that XM Sirius radio show, and then here in Bass Talk Live, and another radio station we were working on. I mean, we've done all kinds of stuff.
We'll get into that here in a minute. But a great show today. We're going to have an icon on here in about 15, 20 minutes. We're going to have Denny Brauer on live via Skype. Very excited about that. But the big news of the day is Matt going to be able to get it done against Jeff Kriet at Lake Murray, Jeff Kriet's home lake? And condition-wise, we're going to try and check in with him.
Boy.
I don't know, but condition-wise, the wind's going to be blowing a little bit. Actually, fairly strong, about 20 to 25. But there are places on Lake Murray that you can get out of the wind, and I'm sure Kriet's used to it. But I know the fans are really looking forward to another edition of what Matt is doing with this one-on-one stuff where he goes out and challenges the guys.
Murray has gotten tough in the last year or two. I don't know what happened down there. It used to fish a heck of a lot better than it does now.
Yeah. And
with Kriet, home lake.
Yeah.
And I know how you are with home lake advantage. This is I'm betting on Kriet.
Yeah.
I love old Matt, but I'm betting on Kriet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. We'll see what trickeration that Matt can pull off on this one to get the W. So we'll see. All right, I want to reflect real quick, and a lot of people out there, Gary, when we started this thing, and I was thinking back this morning, we started in 2001. All right, was the year that we first started doing anything, because I was thinking about this. It was the year after Woo Dave's won and the Chicago debacle took place.
What's that, a debacle?
I mean, it was just insane. And that's when you and I started the thing. You remember Mike Holt?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Holt,
the Virgin Islands now.
Yeah, he's living the dream life there with his yacht and his beachfront property and all this and everything. But anyway, guy by the name of Mike Holt called you and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this fishing show on one of the local radio stations here in Oklahoma City? And that was kind of the start of it. Yeah. That's how the whole thing got going. And heck, we didn't really know. I mean, you had done radio a little bit. You and Tim Tucker many years ago actually did a audio version of the Bassmaster Classic for people that couldn't watch, but they could listen, and that was very, very cool. So you had radio experience. I didn't have a drop.
Well, you were kind of one of those natural born into it guys. So.
Yeah, I didn't have a drop. And folks, Gary was really the guy that got me into this whole gig in the beginning back in 2001. That was the year, I believe, Ike and Ellie won the Bassmaster Classic. And that's how this whole thing got started. Gary has been in the bass fishing world, 40 years?
Oh, yeah.
40 plus?
40 plus, probably, yeah.
I'm
old, Mark. Hell,
dude,
I'm old.
And I remember the first time that I went to your office, and one of the coolest things that I saw when Gene Gilliland is the one that actually hooked us up in the beginning, long, long time ago. But the first time that I went to your old office, you and your brother over there on Main Street, and the one thing that stuck out like a sore thumb is you had it was like a $2,400 check from Bass in a frame, uncashed. All right. And it was the first big check that you ever got as an angler.
It was a $5,000 check.
5,000, geez.
But the truth of this is, there's more to this story.
What is it?
I've
never heard this.
It was a color copy.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. You think I'm going to let 5Gs lay around?
I thought that was so cool, and it just caught my attention. So, folks, Gary, he's a tournament angler. Over the years, he's fished with the best and knows so much about the game and the business side of it. Has an enormously successful PR and marketing company here in Oklahoma, has been doing it, like I said, for 40 plus years. So that's a little background on Gary. And Gary is one of my true friends in what I call the swimming pool.
The swimming pool. Well, it's been a long time, and it's been a good ride. And I'm so sorry this crud's hit everybody, and it's just shut us all down. I mean, the business end of this fishing world is sucking some wind right now, and it'll probably will be for a while. Yeah, if you look at it, most of these products are made in Wuhan province, and so they're not getting anything to sell. I mean, stuff is selling if it's there, but the tackle stores most of them are closed. And so a lot of that's been purchased on the internet, but if the supply chain is empty, it's over. And so a lot of people are hurting right now, and it's a shame.
Yeah. I have spoken with some industry leaders. I've spoken with some key people that are involved in the process, but I want your opinion. Will there be an ICAST this year?
No.
Yeah, I agree with you.
No. And I say that for two reasons. First of all, we don't know where this is going with this virus. That's one thing. But the other thing is, as I said, a lot of companies starting to struggle a little bit because they can't get product and so on, and they're pulling out. So between those two things, getting a big crowd together is not smart. Yeah. And then with many of the manufacturers pulling out, no, there's not going to be an ICAST. It would shock me if there was an ICAST.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I know the organization is trying, but there have been so many other large, what I call swimming pool industries, these little iconic, little trendy groups, bowling being one of them. Their ICAST was scheduled for July in Denver, and they canceled that.
Yeah.
Golf. I have a really good friend that works for the USGA in Canada, or not in Canada, in Kansas. That's quite the difference there, Canada and Kansas. And they have canceled numerous conventions and stuff that is scheduled for June and July. So I just can't see it happening. The other thing is the international travel that is necessary with a lot of the people that are involved with ICAST. Maybe not, but I just cannot see it happening,
Gary.
I would
be shocked. Hey, folks, if you don't know, ICAST is the biggest trade show by far in the fishing industry, and we all depend upon it every summer to go and see what's new and what's not. In reality, will it hurt the overall fishing world if there's not an ICAST? To a degree, yes, but they're still, if they've got product to sell, that's not going to slow them down. They'll they're working. The R&D shops are coming out with new stuff all the time, and I just don't think it's going to hurt them that bad for not having an ICAST.
Somebody made the comment on the instant feedback, Jake in Ohio, it says, where do you shop? Aside from jackhammers, I don't see many missing items. I will address that, and then you can comment on it. Number one, for some things, there was a tremendous amount of inventory on hand already.
Yeah.
All right? The concern is what happens from this day forward from a supply chain standpoint and from an inventory standpoint.
Well,
is that a good statement?
It's all about the supply chain.
Yeah.
If you look back on this, look at China. That's where a lot of this stuff is made. China, Guatemala, and some other places, but China. I mean, so you get the product finished and put it in a big box or whatever you do, and you ship it over here. It comes by boat, and then it hits the beach, and then it gets dispersed. Well, China's not making them. It takes 6 weeks for the stuff to get from China to here.
Yeah.
The supply chain's full, but it's coming to the end. I mean, the tackle stores are full right now. They've got product, those that are open, and then the internet shops and so on.
Yeah.
But they're going to start running low, and they'll be running out soon. Buy it now.
Yeah.
If you want it, buy it now.
Yeah. Who would have thought that a jackhammer would cost more than a barrel of oil? Is that not insane? Wow.
Well, a jackhammer catches them better than a barrel of oil. I don't know what it is about that jackhammer, but I'm a fan myself.
I'm with you. Andy in Indiana, I kind of gave a very quick scenario. He wants to know what your background is. Just kind of let everybody know out there. I said 40 plus years, but you've been in this game for a long, long time, Gary.
Well, I started out as working for a daily paper, read journalism degree, same typical stuff, and piddled around for a while, then went to work for a big ad agency, 2 of them, and Ackerman.
What was that?
Huh?
Angus
McQueen.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Oh, what a guy. And then I went to work for one up in New York, Saatchi & Saatchi, and compared the two, and I thought, this really sucks. So I decided to open up my own shop, and that was tough to start, let me tell you. Boy, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
It was tough, and so I started opening up my own shop at Blue Heron up in New York, and was up there about 10 years, moved to Oklahoma, where I belong.
Yeah.
And been doing okay ever since.
Yeah. I would say you have this passion that I did not realize until I started hanging out with you a little bit for fly fishing.
I sure do. Well,
you're obsessed.
Any kind of fishing.
Yeah, but fly fishing, you are obsessed, aren't you?
Well, if I'm obsessed, that's probably mostly bass fishing, but look out, fly fishing comes up there. I love it. I dearly love it. I love up in the mountains, in the beautiful mountains. I love that.
Yeah.
Tarpon fishing down at Keys, red fishing down at Venice. Fly rod's fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
We've talked a little bit about, obviously, the situations that are taking place here. What has been some of the conversations that you've had? You have a number of clients that are both in the hunting and the fishing world. What's been the feedback that you're getting back from them on getting through this and really their outlook right now? Is it a big unknown, Gary?
It is a big unknown. I tell you, though, by talking to these clients, that they fully expect August, September area that they're going to be back in and getting their supply chains back full and ready to sell. And that's not that far away. And I hope they're right, because some of the other projections on a national level that you hear on TV and such is some of them are a lot farther out than that. But I kind of agree with the guys. When you look at how they're doing this and where it's come from, see, a lot of my clients' products come from central Italy, and a lot of it comes from Wuhan. And you're not getting anything out of those 2 places. You're just not getting it. Well, that's the way it is with a lot of the country and a lot of the outdoors products.
Yeah.
And until these areas crank back up, because you look, what's made in America anymore? There are some things.
Broccoli?
Oh, geez. Broccolini?
Broccoli?
I don't know. But at any rate, I mean, as soon as they crank back up, things will be back and we'll be good. But we've got to get people back to work, and we've got to get everybody's going to be happy about it. I mean, if you don't have any money, you can't buy a damn jackhammer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Have you seen anything like what we are experiencing on the lakes right now? It's take a number.
You got to wait in line
to
fish a spot.
Take a number.
I have never, ever. I went down to one of our favorite lakes when the bedding's going on.
Yeah.
And I've never seen so many people in that lake. It was in the middle of the summer. There's not that many people in that lake, and it was all bass boats, all zooming around. And gee, many Christmas. I've never seen anything like it. And I've gone to other lakes. I try to find lakes like some of these western Oklahoma lakes that have never seen a bass boat. Yeah, they're seeing them now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Me and Brad Hallman found a gem, and I'm not going to say where it is.
Oh, come on. I hate that.
No, there's a reason. We saw 2 bass boats when we went there. That was it.
Is it a big lake?
No.
Well, it's a little private deal.
No, it's not a private deal. No. Yeah.
West?
North, east, south, west, one of those.
You got a mean streak. Jeffries has a mean streak, folks.
No. I've shown my sensitive point of view. I talked about The Voice and talked about this one song, and I got inundated with emails about it. It's okay, Jeffries. You can like Brandy Carlisle is who it was. I've been lost on that because I'm a headbanger when it comes to music. Gary, you know that. Anyway.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
We are going to venture back to that gem here shortly. But I want to do this first, and then we're going to take a break and come back with Denny Brauer. I want to let everyone know next week a jam-packed shows for at least 3 days. I have 3 shows booked next week. No show on Monday. Matt and I are having our throwdown, our annual throwdown. I'm 0-7, Gary. I've never beat him.
At what? Where?
1-on-1. He's in his boat. I'm in my boat.
And where are you fishing?
10 killer.
Oh, that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
That'll be
on
fun.
Monday. But I'm 0-7. I am bound and determined to get the W this year. See, unlike him, I have nobody helping me out. See, he has fans send him information and lures and all this and everything. I'm going to do it on my own.
That's the only way to do it right. If you're going to do it right, do it. Don't do it.
I'm just kind of busting his chops. Anyway, next week, great week. Tuesday, Greg Hackney. Wednesday, Steve Kennedy. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk to John Cox, of which nobody's really talked to him about the scenario that we actually discussed right here on BTL about him fishing the Elite Series and the FLW event at the same time. I don't know if you caught that show or not.
I did not. How the heck does that work?
He was going to use a helicopter and have 2 boats and all this stuff. It was really, really cool. So John Cox on Thursday, and then I was going to have Randy Blockett on Friday, but we're unable to do it on Friday. So I have Randy Blockett booked for the final the following Monday on the 27th, and that kind of fills up the next 4 or 5 shows.
What's he doing now? I haven't heard about Randy.
He's fishing the Opens. Yeah.
Is he doing any good? Or has it?
Well, they haven't even had one. Yeah.
I haven't thought of him for a while. We used to call him Butt Seat Blockett.
Oh, he was one of the best guests that we've had on the show.
He could be good. He's got this
really, really good. And some of the stories, and I was going back because I was doing some research on Denny. And back in the late 90s and mid 90s, dude, Randy was up there at the top of the leaderboard
all the time.
A lot.
You remember the whole GQ deal, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you talk about that? Are you going to talk about that?
I don't know. We didn't talk about that on the last show.
You ought to talk about that.
I don't know.
That's why we call him Butt Seat.
Yeah. We'll see about that. All right, we're going to take a break, folks, here on a Thursday. Looking forward to Mr. Denny Brauer coming up right here shortly. Everybody stay tuned.
The search for the best combination of value and performance is over. It ends with Elite TI2. From high-res views of active imaging to mapping in real time with Genesis Live, the high-powered performance of Elite TI2 continues to dominate. And now, wirelessly share sonar waypoints and routes between TI2 displays. Get up to $200 cash back when you purchase a Lowrance Elite TI2 or Hook Reveal display. Visit Lowrance.com/offers for details.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Luz doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage.
Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency.
Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share with you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can, stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader 100% fluorocarbon and give it a try.
All right, we are back on a Thursday, closing out the week with my good friend in studio for Matt, Mr. Gary Giudice. And things have changed a little bit since the last time you were in studio.
Everything changed. The studio even changed. I mean,
yeah.
In the fishing world, sure has changed. Boy.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to our next guest. And you were obviously at the Classic that he won in 1998. Is that right? High Rock Lake?
Yeah.
So I had a picture queued up of that trophy. He had a picture on Facebook. But I remember looking and doing some research. I think it was like 46 pounds is what he had over 3 days. A tough way to win that piece of hardware. And we're going to talk about that and many, many other things. And I don't know if you remember this, Gary. He was one of the first guests that we had when we had the XM show. Denny was.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Do you know who the first guest was?
No, I can't remember.
It was Kevin.
Oh, okay.
Kevin, because when we made the switch from XM and started this thing, Kevin was also the first guest that we had when we created BTL after the elimination, the merger, whatever you want to talk it, that went down with XM. But no, we had Denny on during the XM days. So looking forward to talking to him once again. And let me get this queued up. Denny, you there, man?
I am.
Man, thank you so much for taking time out to be a part of this show. And I want to kick things off by reflecting a little bit because that was a cool shot that you had on your Facebook page, you standing by your trophy. And I went back and I kind of looked at that event in 1998 at High Rock, and that seemed like it was a very, very tough event. What can you tell me and tell the fans about something that took place during that week on the water and really how that week went for you?
Well, that had been our second or third classic we had actually had on High Rock. And the previous classics were one out on deep water, deep brush piles, typical summertime stuff. And we had a little different year that year, and a lot of the bait was forced up shallow. I'm sure it was an oxygen situation. And, of course, back then, we came in a month early for a little pre-practice period, then it went off limits. And I'd actually found these fish a month earlier, and when I come back for the tournament, went to check them and couldn't get a bite and ended up doing a bait change. And that's all it took, and was able to capitalize on the same area.
Wow. That was my very first classic, Gary.
Was it really?
Yeah, very first one, and I was a lost puppy. I didn't know what was going on, and I was just amazed by the whole thing. I thought 46 pounds was a lot of weight.
Well, I tell you, we'll ask Denny, but for High Rock, that's not a bad weight.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it really isn't a bad weight there. They do catch a few big stringers, but back in those days, if you could come in with 15 pounds a day, you were going to be pretty strong, and especially for a summertime event. You look at a springtime pre-spawn type event, you're going to have them 20-pound plus bags. But the middle of the summer, it can get pretty tough, and I was tickled to death to catch those type of quality fish. But in that group, I think I had like a 7-12 or something like that, so that went a long way.
What Kershel get when he won it there? Well, how many pounds was that? Does anybody remember?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. I should remember.
I think it was somewhere in that same vicinity, because I think I finished third, just a few ounces back behind him. So I kind of got bittersweet memories of that event.
I want to reminisce a little bit more. Was the 1996 Megabucks event, was that the one that was in like the Dallas metro area where they actually had bleachers set up around this little lake on the final day or something? Is that what that was? Because I think you came in second in that event.
Yeah, that was on White Rock Lake in basically downtown Dallas. We had the qualification on another lake outside of Dallas on Richland Chambers, I think was the name of the lake.
Yeah.
But the finals was on White Rock, and there were a lot of spectators that had walking trails all around it, and we ended up tied and had to go out in sudden death, and it was one of those first fish type deals, and I ended up second.
Who won that event, Denny?
Jeff McGee.
Okay.
Wow, there's a name from the past.
Yeah, I remember he was throwing like a tube at little sticks and stuff, as I remember it.
Huh.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where it was super cold out. We actually had ice the first morning, and I think the first hole I caught like a 6-something, which for White Rock was a really big fish. And a few minutes later, I've got another fish on about 3.5 pounds, and I go to swing him, and the ice just cut the line right in two. And there went the big right there. Or I could have ended it all in the first hole. So that's one of them do-over deals. You'd have certainly probably been better off flipping a 3-pounder.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the now. What are things like at Amistad? Are they as crazy as they are around here in Oklahoma?
Well, with the virus, yeah, it's a little bit crazy. I think we've got like a dozen cases in Del Rio, but I live out on the lake itself, so I pretty well just stick from going to my house to the ramp and back, and fishing has been off the wall. It's really been good. Amistad has come back very, very strong this year, so it's made it a little less painful. I don't mind the shelter in place out on the lake.
Is there a lot of boats on the water, Denny?
There really are. I mean, West Texas obviously is big oil country, and it's pretty well shut down. So you got all of those people. A lot of them have trailer houses, have weekend homes here on the lake. And, of course, with the kids out of school, a lot of families have been down here fishing. So it's getting a lot more pressure than what it would normally get this time of the year. Of course, it's shut down to tournaments, so there's no tournaments going on. So it's just people out there fun fishing.
Wow. Yeah, I know around here, I mean, you're having to park. They're out of parking at some of the boat ramps, the trailer areas. People are having to park on the highway. It's like anything I've never seen before.
Oh, no. Denny, you got to wait in line to cast. I mean, it's crazy, crazy.
I know. I talked to Chad up on Lake of the Ozarks the other day, and he said it's like summertime up there. It's just crazy, all the boaters and pleasure boaters out, and of course the people fishing. It's, people are hunting for something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss Lake of the Ozarks, Denny?
I do at certain times, but I certainly don't miss all that traffic. And, there was a reason I moved down here, and it's a lot more desolate, a lot further away from everything, obviously, so we don't get near the boat traffic, don't get all that recreational traffic like they do up there. And you got the opportunity to catch those double-digit fish, which, you don't have a lot of those type of opportunities up on Lake of the Ozarks. And I know yesterday we were out fishing, and I ended up catching 1 over 6 and 1 over 8 on back-to-back casts. And that's just hard to do in a lot of parts of the country.
Wow. All right, I want to let everybody know on the instant feedback what we're going to do. We're going to talk to Denny a few more minutes, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back with questions from the fans, Denny. I want to know, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but I really want to know before and after, because we have a lot of younger fans that watch this, and they may not be aware of this, about your appearance on the David Letterman show. What was that like building up to that? Then what took place after the show? Was there any, memorable moment with maybe somebody else that was on that show? But what was it like building up to it, and then what took place afterwards?
Well, it was a little nerve-wracking, to be honest with you, because you knew going in that you were kind of representing the whole fishing industry, and you didn't want to come off looking like some big bozo in front of a nationwide audience. So you had a little bit of pressure there, but it went well, and I got quite a bit of airtime. I think Ozzy Osbourne was one of the guests on that particular show, and we did a deal out back trying to teach him how to cast, which was something I just as soon forget. But
wow,
that boy had some metal hanging off his head. But anyhow, it went well, and after the show was over, the producer came up to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing a return appearance. And I just figured she told everybody that. But when I got back, they called, and we set up to do the second appearance there. And on that appearance, Jesse Jackson was supposed to be their main guest, and his plane was late. So I ended up probably getting more airtime than anybody's ever got on David Letterman. They kept bringing me out to kill time until his plane finally got there. So it was a neat experience, but it was amazing how far-reaching that is to be on a show like that.
Yeah, it's quite cool. What was David Letterman like? Was he as funny as he is on television?
Yeah, he's very, very funny, very personable. Of course, he's somewhat of an outdoorsman, so it wasn't like it was totally out in left field for him. He does fish some, but I guess a memory I'd probably take away from the show more than anything else is how cold that stage was. I mean, they were definitely piping in the air conditioning there.
Wow. Do you miss tournament fishing at all?
I do. I do not miss the traveling. I mean, 35 years of going up and down the same roads and all the politics and some of that stuff. I don't really miss, but the competition, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And, you had a lot of friends out there on the tour. You don't get to see them quite as much anymore. So that part of it I miss. And I still fish an occasional local event around here and, do a little traveling around Texas. But, I mean, when I retired, it showed me just how much I love the sport of fishing, because I fish more now than I ever have before, because I've got more opportunity to actually fish rather than run around the country doing other things.
All right, very cool. I got to ask, how many takes did it take to do the lollipop commercial with Kevin?
Well, the one take I wanted them to use, they wouldn't use, where I grabbed him by the collar and jerked him over the counter. They thought that was a little too violent, I guess. But we had a lot of fun with that. Kevin's a good friend, and that commercial got a lot of comments, a lot of feedback.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Really, really good. All right, we're going to do this, Gary. We're going to take a break, and there are a ton of questions on the instant feedback, Denny. So hold tight. We'll take a quick break and come back with questions from the fans across the country. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Take, Our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks. Why? Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a great for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, you know, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back with our special guest here on a Thursday. It is time to go to the instant feedback. And we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and get to as many as I can. Denny, you there, man? We good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Scott in I think it's Indiana, I'm sorry, wants to know, do you ever use a chunk as a trailer anymore? It seems like everybody uses a craw.
I really don't. I remember the day that I was so locked into cold water having a chunk with no action behind a jig, but almost 100% of the time now I'm using what Striking calls their Rage chunk, which is like the Rage crawl but a shorter version, and it's got a lot of built-in action in it, but it's a fairly subtle action. And in a clear water lake like what I'm fishing down here, so many of your strikes come on the drop, and it's just the perfect trailer for that.
All right, a lot of tube questions. Andy in Indiana wants to know, his wife was actually too nervous to ask the question, so he is asking it. Wanted to know how you rig a tube weedless with or without a weight.
Oh boy, it becomes an issue for a lot of people because a traditional straight shank worm style hook does not work good in a tube. You really need an offset style tube hook. I know Mustad had a hook they called the tube hook that lays perfectly on the back side to where it's just skin hooked. And any hollow bait like a tube, that's a perfect hook for that. So EWG style hooks is really what you need to go with on the tube, whether you're throwing it without a weight or with a weight. And a lot of people don't realize you can catch a lot of fish on a tube weightless, just twitching it through vegetation, and that it can be a very good bait to do that with, almost fishing it like a fluke. But most of the time, if I'm flipping or pitching it, I'm going to have probably a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce weight pegged to the front of the tube.
Do you peg it right against the tube, Denny, or do you give it a 1/4 inch or something?
Do I do what?
Do you when you peg it, do you peg the weight right against the tube, or do you give it a 1/4 inch out or something?
No, I always peg up against the bait itself. I do things a little bit different than what a lot of guys do. A lot of people are using bobber stops, and I've just never been a real fan of them. I like to use a rubber nail and peg it very, very tight. And what happens then is when that fish shakes his head and jumps or whatever, it's still going to push the weight on up the line, but it's going to stay up the line. Whereas if you're using a bobber stop, it's going to shove it up the line, but the sinker can come back down and bang into the hook. It's not a big factor when you're using smaller weights like 1/8 and a 1/4 ounce, but you get up onto some of the punching weights, 1 ounce, once an ounce and a 1/4. Man, I do not want that weight to come back down and act like a plug knocker on that hook. So that's kind of why I go with that technique. And plus, it keeps that bait or that sinker very snug against the bait itself. I'm just not one of those people that want that gap in there. I just don't think it looks natural.
All right, there you have it. Derek from Ohio wants to know, when do you choose to flip a tube instead of another soft plastic?
Well, the tube just seems to be a really good bait when the fish are spawning, when they're on the beds. It emulates a bluegill real well. It's also a good bait if you know that they're feeding on shad rather than crawfish. I think it puts a lot of the same pressure waves out as what a shad or a bait like that will versus a crawfish. So those are kind of what I key. Time of year a little bit. If they're spawning, I'll get away from the jig or get away from a bait like a rage crawl or anything that's got a lot of appendages on it that has a lot of action. I want something a little more subtle, and that tube is as good as it gets, especially if you take like a green pumpkin, a little chartreuse on the end of it. I think that really looks like a bluegill, and that's probably one of the best baits to fish during the spawning season.
Is the tube kind of a forgotten bait?
I think it is, and the reason for that is we've got so many options nowadays. One of my favorite baits to pitch and flip's the rage bug, and we didn't have that option years ago. We basically had the jig and we had the tube, so we kind of fished the jig up until the spawning season, and then went to the tube through the spawning season. And once we got past that, we went to fishing, worms and a few options that we had as far as soft plastics. But now, gosh, we got the rodents, we got the rage bugs. It just goes on and on. So the tube doesn't get the attention that it used to get just because there are more options.
All right, Mark in Minnesota wants to know, what technique do you think that you've gotten better at since moving to Amistad?
No, definitely deep water fishing. I made my living primarily shallow because you could find fish a little easier shallow in a lot of the lakes. If I could find heavy cover, find dirty water, my favorite technique of flipping and pitching would come into play. But when I moved down here, depending on our water level, you may not have those opportunities. We're 42 foot low right now, so there's not a lot of flipping and pitching taking place. And it made me become a lot better deep water fishing, get a lot better with my electronics. I'm a lot more comfortable when I get out there in that 20 foot and deeper water. I started finesse fishing. I drop shot now, which I'd never ever would dream of doing back when I was fishing the tour. And you'll catch fish 100 foot deep here, so it's a different deal. We'll be out there with a jig and spoon catching stripers 100, 110 foot deep. So I'm a lot better with my electronics. I'm a lot better with finesse fishing because of living on this lake.
Denny, you'd say 42 foot low?
Yeah, we're 42 foot low right now. They've been on a rampage releasing water for irrigation, so hopefully it'll stabilize pretty soon.
Most of our lakes aren't 42 feet deep, are they? Golly, they'd be dry.
Well, we've still got a couple 100 feet of water, so we're good there, and we're real fortunate because of all the springs in the lake. We very seldom ever get a thermocline situation, so the fish can live down there at 100 feet without a problem.
All right, V Win wants to know, what do you believe would be the best area on Lake of the Ozarks to fish at any time during the year?
Oh, boy. I don't know if I could pick one area. Typically in the fall, the river system, the upper end of the lake, has always been traditionally better. In the cold water seasons, the lower end of the lake. I guess if I was to pick one area, it would probably be from the mouth of the Gravois, which is around the 6 mile marker, to probably the 20 mile marker. That stretch through there is a good all around area throughout the year, but it does get a lot of recreational traffic there. So, but it's got some good coves. You can kind of get out of the traffic a little bit, but it carries a large population of fish.
Do you like to sight fish, Denny?
I do like to sight fish. I do not like to sight fish at tournaments because you can watch that clock disappear on you pretty fast. If you get one of those fish that fools you, you think he's aggressive, you think you can catch him, and you end up all of a sudden 15, 20 minutes of your time has been taken up, and you finally figure out that fish is not catchable. So that can get very, very frustrating. But I really don't do a lot of it here, in spite of how clear our water is. There's just, to me, better ways to utilize my time and catch them.
All right, Binkwood wants to know, this is kind of funny. He wants to know if Ozzy dented the limo when you were teaching him how to flip.
It's kind of funny. He actually did. He wanted to keep the button pushed down on the reel and reel at the same time, which, when you hear that grinding sound, that's not real good. But I finally got him to where he could cast, and he bounced one off the street right into the limo. Didn't knock the windshield out, but put a nice dent in the front of the limo. Absolutely, pretty pathetic when it comes to casting.
Wow. Ozzy, do you guys text back and forth now? Do you have his phone number? Do you stay in touch?
Yeah, I mean, he comes out and plays at my New Year's Eve parties and all of that, so that's a pretty cool deal.
Wow. All right.
No, I'm really lying about that. Thank you.
All right. Zach in Iowa wants to know, how do you go about flipping when there's a lot of current? Any specific tactics?
Yeah, really what you're trying to do is actually pitch up current from the target itself and let the current kind of sweep your bait by. And the whole deal with that is getting the correct weight of the bait so that it will sweep with the current, but it won't sweep so fast that you can't keep bottom contact. In other words, when you lift the rod a little bit, you want it to sweep a foot or two, but you don't want it just to get carrying on past the target too fast. And I know we had a FLW championship in Bugs Island out in North Carolina, where the whole deal was pitching jigs above log jams and letting the current carry it down to the log jam up the river, and the bite was absolutely unbelievable. One of the best memories I've ever had about fishing jigs in current.
Wow. All right. Our good friend Big Polly from Long Island, New York wants to know if you still throw a bullfrog-colored Zara Spook.
I do. I don't throw a Zara Spook anymore. We got the Sexy Dog at Strike King, so I throw that a bunch. Don't really have the bullfrog color in that bright yellow like what we used to throw in some of the stained water up on Lake of the Ozarks. But we've got a lot of perch-type colored baits that kind of take the same place.
All right, let's see here. Jeff in Indiana, a couple other people too. Do you miss the show that you did, Schooled, with Denny Brauer?
Yeah, that was a fun show. We ended up doing 3 different shows over the years, and The first one was bass class, and then we did the school show. The only thing about the school show, we'd bring people in and we'd have to film them, and then I'd come back in and we'd film me retracing their path, and then we'd end up at the studio and take all that footage and end up making a show out of it. So it was a time-exhausting project. It took more time than a regular show, and it was a little more expensive to produce, but it was a fun show. We got a lot of great feedback out of it.
All right, let's see here. Some of these I can't mention. Several people want to know if you have any of the Wheaties boxes.
I do. I have a bunch of them. We're on the Wheaties box. General Mills sent several hundred of them, and I've still got some of them that I've signed and laid away. And I don't know what Chad's going to do with all my stuff once I'm dead and gone, but he's going to have a real issue then.
All right. A couple of people want to know, when it comes to a jig, how important is color?
I think color is a lot more important than people give it credit for when fish aren't biting good. When they're biting really good, a lot of times it doesn't matter. It's just the bait getting into the zone that they're going to react to. But if you're fishing clear water, I just think you're better off going with natural colors, your green pumpkins, your browns. If you're fishing dirty water, it's hard to beat a black and blue color. So, don't overcomplicate things. Just kind of look at the basics, analyze the watercolor, analyze the sky conditions. Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? And just kind of take it from there. It's common sense.
I like that. All right. JD in Illinois wants to know, are there any up-and-comers that have really caught your attention?
Absolutely none. I don't think any of those guys have any game at all.
I'm telling it like it is, I guess. Wow.
You take away all their toys, they're lost.
All right. Would you be up for having limitations when it comes to tournaments where everybody has the same equipment? Very similar to what MLF is doing. Do you think that the angler and the technique and everything else that's tied into the game is showcased much, much more than these guys that have $26,000 in graphs on their boats?
No, I really don't. I think the sport has really evolved, and it's so neat to see all this new technology. And I was this kid when I was talking about the young guys. Some of these guys are so good with their stuff, it makes me jealous. But the sport has really advanced that way, and I hate to see any restrictions on advancement and improvement. We've got some companies that are, just making it more pleasurable for us to get out there and catch fish, because now we know exactly what's going on out there. So I don't think it's got out of hand yet. I think it's still a learning process.
All right, many people want to know mono, fluoro, or braid when you're flipping.
Without a doubt, if it's clear water, I'm going with fluoro, and usually it's going to be 25. Cigar Tatsu is what I just kind of go with. If it's a mat situation, if I'm punching down through stuff, I'm going with the 50-pound braid.
All right, several people want to know, are you working on anything new from a bait perspective?
We are always working on new stuff from a bait perspective. That's, part of our job, and I've worked with striking virtually my whole career. So there's always projects going on. We personally have ideas that we're trying to get out there and get perfected. Other guys do, where we ended up testing that product before it goes into production. So that's a never-ending process. So yeah, there's always new stuff in the pipeline. Some ideas end up being really good ideas. Some of them just kind of fade away. So that's just part of the game.
Big Paulie wants to know, do you remember what the biggest bass was on Schooled?
Yeah, it was caught by Big Paulie, I think. I think it was 11 pounds or 12 pounds. It was a really, really good fish. And it was caught, I don't even remember the lake. It was in Arkansas somewhere, but it was a remarkable catch.
Very nice. Gary, you got anything? I'm trying to weed through these. There's numerous ones on here.
Well, I got all kinds of questions for Denny, but they all sound so silly to me. Denny, when you're fishing braid, does the color of the braid have any impact on you? Do you feel like you need to use a green or a yellow or whatever?
I think green or anything dark is an advantage, because when you're punching and coming into those heavy cover areas, it's going to be pretty dark in there anyway. I don't like the bright colored braids. I know some people do. They can watch your line a little better, and I don't know how much difference it makes, but I always go with the black braid. I just feel I get the best bites doing that. And, for years, guys are using magic markers and coloring their lines. So if you got a line that's already black to start with, it just seems to me like that's an advantage.
Gary, Jim in Indiana has a really good question that I'm going to kind of feed off on. He said, are there too many choices when it comes to soft plastics? And my question, in addition to that, would be, is it better to just keep it simple and keep your choices to a minimum? What are your thoughts, Danny?
I think it is. I think you can get so carried away. I know at the end of the day, once in a while I'll have somebody fishing with me that's got a huge pile laying on the bottom of the boat of stuff that he tried, where he spent half his day retying baits and doing this and that, and really had confidence in nothing they were throwing. And I think if you get 3 or 4 confidence baits and really ask yourself, what should work under these conditions? It's more about the conditions and everything else, and water temperature, and just tie that bait on and go fishing. Once in a while, it's not the bait, it's the location.
All right, very nice. What's your personal best at Amistad?
Fish-wise?
Yeah.
I've had one over 15.
Holy cow.
Wow.
And I don't know what it weighed, because I had 2 scales and they only went to 15, and I ended up releasing the fish. So you can believe the story or not.
I believe it. Do you believe it?
Yeah, I want to know how you caught it. I mean, there's got to be a story behind it.
Yeah, there was a story behind it. It was in about 20 foot of water on a hump, and it was real windy, and I caught it on a football jig. And it was a place that I'd only fished once, and had caught a 5-pounder and left it. We were getting ready for a FLW tournament down here. And when I was out practicing, it was about 3 days before the event, and I just kind of cruised by that area, and I thought, well, I'll make one cast. I made a cast over there, and I ended up catching that fish. And we just come from Falcon, where we caught a couple of 12s and an 11, filming a couple of shows down there. So I knew it was a lot bigger than those. And I ended up weighing it on 2 different scales that I had, and it bottomed both of those out. And I kept it in live well for a little bit, and then I got to thinking about the tournament and got a little greedy. And I thought, well, if I take it right back over to that hump, there's a good chance I might catch it again during the tournament. So that's what I did, and I've never seen the fish again, obviously, but it was a good catch.
Wow. That's cool. All right. Our good friend Matt, not Matt Pangrack, a different Matt. Different Matt wants to know, how many times will you flip into a bush or a brush pile and then move on? Typically, how many times?
Well, if the fish are real aggressive, and I know that they're hitting the bait on the drop, in other words, I'm paying a lot of attention to my bites, and every bush I flip into, that when I do get a bite, it happens before it gets to the bottom. I'm probably going to, once it hits the bottom, pull it out there and pitch it into the next target. But if it's one of them deals, post front or whatever, and you really got to fish slow to get the bite, and I'm sitting there shaking it up and down, and finally one loads up on it, I'm going to slow down even more and be more thorough. Or if it's a deal where, let's say I'm fishing a line of bushes and I get bit on a point bush, and then I fish a little further and I get to another point bush and I get another bite, and then I get to the next point bush and I can't get a bite because of what those 2 previous point bushes have told me, I'm going to spend a lot of time on that next one, just because the odds are really good that that's a strong pattern. So a lot of that, how long you leave a bait and how you fish, evolves during the day.
All right, Denny, a couple more questions and then we'll let you go. Tyler in College Station wants to know, do you ever flip with a fluoro leader, or is it straight fluoro or straight braid?
I always go with straight fluoro or straight braid. There's either a reason to use the fluoro or there's a reason to use the braid, and I don't do any of the mix and match, so to speak.
All right. He also wants to know, what's the grass like at Amistad?
Right now, a lot of it's high and dry. They've been dropping the lake real hard, so there's still some grass, and hopefully we get a few stable, calm days, and it'll start to spread out deep and we don't lose it. But right now, there's not near the grassy areas there was a month ago.
All right, this next question, this is the last question, then we're going to wrap it up.
Oh, I got one.
You got one more? All right, you go ahead and ask yours, Gary.
Just a quick question. Back to kind of some of the stuff you were talking about earlier. I know a lot of young guys are trying to learn to fish with YouTube. What do you got to say to those guys, Denny?
I think that's great. I mean, you can get knowledge in a hurry by YouTube and the videos. There's so many opportunities now that there weren't years ago where they can get that education real fast. And that's fine, but it's still time on the water. You can get the education, but you can't get the confidence from YouTube. And confidence is what wins tournament. And in order to really get that confidence, you got to get out there and put the hours in. There's really still no shortcuts.
Good answer.
Yeah, dead
Good
on.
answer.
All right, a couple more. Good friend Maynard, been listening and watching us a long time. He wants to know, what length and action flipping stick do you use?
I go with a 7.6 the majority of the time. I think that's just an all-round good length, and it's a medium heavy. It's got a little bit of a tip to it, but I'm fishing the Lew's heavy action flipping stick. And now if I go to where I'm strictly fishing mats, once in a while I'll go to a heavier action 7-11 type length, but most of the time the 7.6 does a really good job.
What gear ratio are you putting on that reel?
Well, usually it's a 7-5. I'm fishing that Lew's Hyper Meg reel. It's not a real big reel, but it's got a really good drag to it, and that 7.5 to 1 gear ratio. If you're pitching, you can take a lot of line up in a hurry, or if you have a fish run at you. So I used to not be a real proponent of high gear ratio reels because I didn't think you had the leverage to winch the fish out of the cover. But with these new reels, it's not an issue, and it just makes you more efficient if you can take that line up faster.
Yeah.
All right, Denny, do you have any Tommy Biffle stories?
Oh, gosh, I've got a lot of them, and none of them I can tell on the
air. We're trying to get Tommy on. I love Tommy, man. Tommy is great. And I just every time that he goes into a story, which is somewhat rare, it's epic. It doesn't matter. He could talk about going to the car dealership and something happened with Tommy. It doesn't matter. So there's no nuggets you can give us on a Tommy Biffle story.
The one, if you do get him on the air, ask him about the time that septic backed up and flooded his suitcases and all his clothes in the hotel room.
Okay.
And he ended up winning the tournament, by the way.
Wow. Yeah, we'll chalk that one up when he comes on the show. All right, last question, and it might make me look like an idiot, but quite honestly, it won't be the first time. But I have taken a lot of grief. There were a couple of days ago, we actually had snow here in Oklahoma. I mean, there were big flakes. And I talk about the event that Jim Morton won on Grand Lake in the snow throwing the buzzbait. All right? Do you remember that, Gary?
No, you bet.
Now, I also said that there was a guy, and Gary's familiar with it, his name is Sean Goodwin, that won an open event on Lake of the Ozarks throwing a buzzbait in the snow. All right, and all these people are saying that you're crazy, Mark.
Oh.
There's no way that, and it was on Lake of the Ozarks, that bite gets going in the early winter, late fall at Lake of the Ozarks when it's snowing. For some reason, those fish really, really turn on with that buzzbait. Is this true, or I am absolutely out of my mind, Denny?
No, you're not out of your mind. I was actually fishing that tournament when Jim won it on the buzzbait, and I was a little surprised. But if they're on the shad bite, it's not that unusual. Now, Lake of the Ozarks, it's a notorious as a buzzbait lake, especially the backsides of docks and that. They catch them in cold water there. It's also a good walking bait type of lake when the water's cold. So, no, I think we get these preconceived ideas once in a while that it's got to be 60 degrees out or whatever before they're going to eat top water. But no, it can be 50 degrees, and that water temperature, if they're coming up, they will eat top water.
There you have it. Matt gives me grief all the time. Anytime it snows, you going to talk about Jim Morton?
Oh.
That was just one of the coolest events for him to win that event. Anyway, Denny, man, I greatly appreciate you taking time out. What are your plans over the next, few months? I know we're getting through this, but do you have anything on your agenda if everything gets back to normal that you're working on?
No, we had a couple of trips planned that we've obviously put on hold because of everything that's going on. And I've got a trip scheduled Lake Picachos in June where I'm taking my son and grandson down there. So I hope everything gets cleared up by then. But other than that, I'm just spending a lot of time fishing here at the lake. And once we get into September, then the elk hunting and the deer hunting and everything else will start. That's one thing about living in Texas. You've got a lot of options.
Denny, I've got a trip to Picachos, I can't pronounce it, and El Salto, the same trip. It's a 6-day trip. I'm spending 3 days at each one in July. I hope they get all that settled by then. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, those are such great lakes, and Ron runs such a great operation down there. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, Denny, take care, man. Be safe, and thank you so much for taking time out. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate you having me on, guys.
All right, man. Take care. There you have it, Denny Brauer. Some great stuff. And the whole Ozzy Osbourne thing is pretty fun.
Beyond all that, I mean, that's cool. And it makes a big mark on our sport, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But he's an icon. I mean, this guy has done it. He's started with the Federation, worked his way up through all this.
Yeah.
And look at him. I'm just happy as hell. He's retired down there now, living a good life and enjoying himself.
Do you remember when we had that first Elite Series event at Amistad? It put it on the map. Everybody flocked to that place. I know there were a number of anglers, Byron Velvick, Ish Monroe. There were a lot of guys that ended up buying places down there. And the whole area of Del Rio, Texas, blew up simply because of what took place on the Elite Series.
Oh, yeah. One tournament made such a difference, but what a tournament it was, too. Look what they caught and how they caught them. Where is Byron and Ish? They still don't have places there, do they? Do you know?
What's that?
Byron and Ish, do they still?
I think Byron still has his. I think Ish sold his.
Byron had the restaurant.
I don't even think that place is open anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's been long gone and stuff, but just the fans, the anglers, they had never been exposed to anything like what they saw that first event that Ish won.
That's amazing.
It's crazy stuff. So great guest, and wow, what a week. If you happen to miss some of the shows, you need to go back and listen. The Shaw Grigsby show was incredible. If you're really into sight fishing, obviously. Let's see if you agree with Matt and I. We both agree Shaw Grigsby, the best sight fishing angler in the world. Would you agree with that?
Beyond a doubt.
Yeah.
I've fished with Shaw quite a bit through the years, and he sees a fish, he catches it. I mean, it's the dadgummest thing. He'll take a tube and skip it out in front of a cruiser. And it looks like a little shad trying to get out of the, you know what I'm saying? Beep, 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 beep. And I've seen him catch fish that I thought were just totally uncatchable. He's amazing.
Yeah. So many thanks to the guests this week. And then next week, Greg Hackney, Steve Kennedy, John Cox, and then I'm working on one more, and then Randy Blockett the following week. So
amazing.
We're going to continue giving you, the fans, I'm really trying to book some interesting people that really kind of give people insight on some of the stuff that we don't normally get to do this time of the year because there are no tournaments. So I will continue to do that, continue trying to get and book as many guests as we can to keep these people entertained and educated, and I love the instant feedback, Gary. And I've said this on a few shows, but I want to close out the week by number one. I want to thank all the companies, and I don't normally do this, but in what we're going through right now, it's very important that the fans and everybody that listens and watches understand the importance of the companies that are involved with Bass Talk Live. Been doing this a long time, Gary, and many people have said that I'm a grinder. I've kind of grinded it out, and I've been able to survive numerous things, numerous situations, and I think it's because of the creativeness, the creativity, and the platform that we showcase to the fans and to the sponsors. So a big thanks to all the companies that make this thing happen, folks. This is how we make our living.
Who are they?
And they could see it on the intro. I mean, I'm not going to list them off, but I think it's important that everybody realize the importance that this is not just a hobby, all right? This is how Matt and I make our living, all right? This is our source of income. So unlike some other situations that take place in this industry, a lot of people like to do stuff for product. Agree, Gary? Agree?
Yeah, certainly.
All right, and hence, that's why we, being Matt and I, try to put the best product out there as possible to give the fans more and to give our sponsors more. And we're going to continue to be creative and come up with unique characteristics that we can pass along to the fans and represent the sponsors. So a big thanks to all the fans. And please, if any way possible, I know times are tough, but if any way possible, please give a shout out to the companies that support this show and support Matt and I. And we are going to continue doing 4 or 5 shows a week until this thing gets through it, Gary.
Mark, I've said before, and you've heard me, and others have said, you're the hardest working guy in the fishing industry. And I believe that with all my heart, but I also think you're the most creative guy in the fishing industry.
I'm trying.
You are trying, and you're succeeding.
Trying.
And I thank you for all the work you do because I learned so much from what you do.
Well, Gary, we go way back. And folks, like I said at the beginning of the show, this is the man right here that got it all started many years ago when we were crammed in that dirty, nasty. It wasn't the best place over there at that radio station.
Oh God!
It was a long time ago. Since then they've remodeled, and it is a very classy place now.
Folks, we'd come in there. It'd be our turn. It was all live then. I love live stuff. But we'd come in there, and whoever was hosting a show before us would trash the place.
Yeah.
You couldn't even find anything. There'd be newspapers draped over the mics and crazy stuff. But those days are long gone.
Long gone. So big thanks for Gary sitting in for Matt. And folks, hopefully we will have the results here. He said he's going to have it out hopefully by Monday. And we'll see what Matthew does against Mr. Jeff Kriet. I'm taking Kriet.
I am too.
I put Matt at, I don't know, I don't remember, like 10-1, I think, and Kriet was at even money. So all the side action that's taking place out there with Hooky the Bookie, that's what I set the line at. So we'll see, man.
We'll see.
We'll see. More to come, too, man. He's got Edwin lined up. He's James Watson on Table Rock. He's thrown the gauntlet down on Matt. So it's been very cool to see Matt kind of take this and run with it. So we'll see what happens with Jeff Kriet. Anything else, Gary?
No, not for me. I'm going to go fishing.
Where are you going? Can you tell me?
Secret place.
Yeah, I know. It's that gem, right? Everybody's looking for that gem.
I've got a watershed lake. It's pretty good. I'm going to go down there.
Have you ever been to Dave Smith's?
No.
That would be a good one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gene Gilliland's got a good one, too. Do you know about that one?
Yes, I do.
Down in Thackerville?
Yes.
Yeah, how come we don't get to go to those things?
I don't know, and I hint. It gets me nothing.
All right, you know what I did yesterday? See the bowling pin right there?
Yeah.
All right, I forgot to get it out of here. I did some lawn bowling yesterday. It's the only way I can bowl. I got to get some reps in. I just took a bunch of pins and put them in the yard.
Hey, I got a question for you. Where did the term bowling come from? Where's that come from?
Bowling?
Bowling. Why
I
do
have
they
no
call
idea.
it bowling?
It used to be called kegling.
Kettling?
Kegling with a K.
Kettling?
Kegling. Like a kegler. I don't know.
Have you ever
I'll look into
bowled
that.
with the duck pins and all that?
No.
Well, back east they do that. I've done that.
It's pretty funny, man. I had people walking by in the neighborhood. They're just staring at me. Got pins set up in the front.
I don't blame them. You need to hire a pin setter.
Anyway, folks, you guys be safe out there. Back on Tuesday. On Tuesday with Greg Hackney. The throwdown is taking place between me and Matt on Monday. Everybody be safe. That's it. We're out of here.